We're going to talk about this little guy here, the Xbox wireless headset. Joining me today is Eric Garcia, who's the architect and product lead for this little guy. And Eric, good to see you.
Hi, nice to meet you.
Let's talk about this because we announced this last month. It actually goes on sale next week, the 16th of March in most areas of the world. And we're
Yep.
excited about this. It's kind of sold out in a lot of areas, but I wanted to take a moment to kind of do a deep dive on this great device because I've had the opportunity. I don't get to talk a lot about things, but I've been testing this for quite some time, as you know, as we
Oh,
all
that's
have.
awesome.
But this has been a great device. Can you walk us through? Tell us about the device.
Yeah. If you look right behind me, we have built some over the year headsets in the past. You see the white one and the black one right behind it. Xbox has never built a wireless over the year gaming headset. Um, and it took a lot of work to get back into the space, and we've done controllers, we've done headsets, but putting the whole experience together, it was really something that we felt was very deserved to a lot of the customers, because it's that end-to-end experience that we wanted to ensure had great audio quality, but it really supported all those gaming sessions that people had.
Yeah, it's funny because I'm an audio nerd, as a lot of people know, and I love I've got all the different headsets, all the manufacturers. We have some amazing third party partners that we deal with. But tell us about some of the things that we've done differently with the Xbox wireless headset, because there's a lot of cool things that go on here, and I got to tell you what I'm excited about. I mean, we're gonna walk through some things. This thing's incredibly affordable, so let's walk through some of the highlights.
Yeah, the when we first started the program, we looked at it, and we had these kind of product pillars. And I think the main thing that we really wanted to go after was we wanted to make an amazing high value headset. It has to sound great, it has to feel great, but when you think of Xbox and Xbox accessories, it just has to work. It has to have that seamless experience. We wanted to build a headset that when you just open it, pull it out of the box, push the button, the pairing button, you push the pairing button in the console right here, it needs to connect smoothly, right? When you put on the audio, I think that's one of the things that we really kind of started figuring out is what is audio. There's countless, hundreds of headsets out there, whether you want a wired headset, a wireless headset, one that goes directly to the console, some that have an adapter. When people say, "Hey, this is the best headset you can buy," even if you're an audiophile, that's not true, because my hearing. I've listened to a lot of bass music over time, and so my hearing is really poor in in the low bass frequency domain. And so when we started looking into, how do we make this headset great for everyone, we started thinking about, okay, well, how do we create a customizable solution that feels great and that can hear great
Right.
and works easily for everything?
Yeah, it's interesting because you're absolutely right. I mean, I was worked in radio for many years, and I have a similar situation where some of my hearing bands are like, I don't quite hear that, or but it doesn't even matter. The reality is, regardless of what we do, we all hear things slightly differently, and we all
Yep.
like things to sound slightly differently. So let's walk us through, because one of the things, and I can't really show that, but when you turn on, well, maybe I can do this. But when you turn it on, I don't know if it's, yeah, you can kind of hear it.
Yep.
It makes the same sound. I mean, you heard a little bit of it there, but it makes the same boot up sound as the console,
Yeah.
right? So that's kind of a nifty
Yeah.
touch that you guys added. But there's a lot of those little fit and finish things in here, right?
Yeah. It's, when we went to go design this and develop it, every single thing you can imagine, this is why this is a really, really tough program, because everything just has to be perfect. The first time that you put something and deliver it into the market, it has to sound like the Xbox family. It has to look, when you put this right beside a console, right, your X, or your controller, it has to look aesthetically like it's just all together. All of the gaps and steps, the color, the material, the finishes, just how it moves around and the quality of the sounds that you hear. It just has to have that great Xbox experience. And yeah, just looking at this, I'm really, really proud of the team, because we've spent countless, countless hours working across all different time zones to make sure that when you push the button to turn it on, it sounds like the console. When you push it to pair, it sounds like it. When you mute, it's similar. The way that the dials turn, there's a lot of work that was done into what is it like from the Surface headphone, and how do Surface headphones feel, and what is it as a lifestyle device, but then taking that knowledge and learning from all the other gaming headsets. Okay, great, but what is a great headset for gaming? And that's a very different story. So
Yeah.
yeah, it was a lot of details that we had to go through to make sure it was perfect.
Now, a couple things I want to point out that you may not be able to tell here, but I mean, you talked about the dials. One side is the party chat, party and game balance, and the other one is the master volume.
Yep.
You can kind of see them on the back here. We've got these little iconic cues here. You can kind of see it right here, telling you which side, and then the other side over here, and that's important. That's the power button right there, the pairing button. You can see it's this beautiful green. Also on the inside, you said left and right, so you know exactly what ears go in which. And a lot of people are asking, hey, guess what? USB-C, which is great, right? People love that.
Yeah.
Um, but the other nifty touches is, for instance, the mute. You can kind of see there's a little, I'm doing a terrible job of showing it, but there's a light on the front here that when you mute or
Yeah.
unmute, I'm doing really terrible. Let's go to this instead, because it's going to be better to show. It's at the end of the microphone, so that when you're muted or unmuted, it's really clear. And you get the audio tune as well, right?
Yep. Absolutely. And again, that mute, even the location of the eye of the mute light, when you're in a bright room like I am right now, I can still see it. When I'm in a dark room, I can also see it. But when you're in a dark room, you also don't want to see it because you don't want something out of your peripherals distracting you from what's going on.
Right.
So that is one of the many things that we designed so that you can customize. I know we'll talk about that stuff later in a bit.
Yeah. And the other thing I noticed, I'm going to try to, again, when you mute,
Yep.
and it's again, it's in microphone, sounds much better in here, but you can kind of get this audio sense of mute and unmute, which is something that as a gamer and as an audio guy, or an audio person, you always want to hear that. Okay, I see it and I hear it. Okay, I'm muted. Honey, what do you need? Right. So you don't want to have those modes. Let's talk about
Yeah.
some of those cool customizations, because one of the really neat things, and I actually have my console here. This is a live demo, which means anything can happen. But we're going to go to my console here, and you're going to see in just a minute. This is actually my console right here. Is that when I've already paired, but you can see my controller here. But there it is. There's the Xbox wireless headset. And now, Eric, at this point, you're like, oh, okay, that's great. Okay, I'm connected. But no. This is the
Nah.
magic. Click on configure. Tell us about all these different options in here, because this is really cool.
So one of the other things that a lot of headsets have a lot of these features too, right? Like being able to change the EQ. But I think the part that we really wanted to focus on is that seamless experience, right? Everything just has to be very simple, really straightforward, because you're on the console to game, right? Or PC to game, to have fun. You're not here to be, spending time trying to figure out how do you set things, moving from one app to another. So in the accessories app, we give several options to be able to customize and personalize this headset to your liking, right?
Sure.
So this was our effort of making it great for everyone, because everyone can tailor it to make it great for themselves. That equalizer. So I noticed that you were playing with the equalizer a minute ago. We came up with some different options. What this really is giving is it gives people an opportunity to make the sound a little bit better for them. So in my case, for example, I tend to listen more on the music side and use that as a start. But I like to increase that bass response because I really need to hear that a little bit more gain in that frequency band, the low band, the 125 hertz and below. But then also, as a lot of people, when we say gaming, it's the game plus speech. And for lifestyle devices, that's kind of similar to what you would get from a movie. But the difference is that you need certain specific areas of audio to really pop. And it's, from the 1 kilohertz to the 4 kilohertz. That's the speech domain. Like the majority of all of speech comes in that. That's why, for example, telephones, they operate specifically in those bands. So we focused a lot on making sure that that frequency band, you can raise it in the way that you can really have that speech pass through, but you don't want to lose that. And that's where Microsoft on our signature was we wanted to start off with having a relatively flat response, but add a little bit more bass because we've noticed that a lot of people who love certain headsets, bass is what they like,
Yeah.
and this allows you to tailor it so that you can get the right area of roughly where you want it to be, and then you have that little bass boost part on the bottom that you could just amp up a little bit
Max
and
it
just get
out.
that great sound. Exactly. So when you're playing a first person shooter with modern type arms, you can hear those explosions, those low bass explosions and the footsteps, but you don't lose the sound and the muddiness by trying to just move everything up because you want it to sound great for how you're trying to coordinate with your team. So
Cool.
a lot of work went into just the EQ itself.
All right, so the EQ is awesome, and then backing down here. Now, I don't know if we want to do this or we want to come back to this because the auto mute's really kind of cool. I'm really excited about that. Let's come back to that because we're going to go back to that in a moment. The mute light is
Yep.
pretty straightforward. That's the light that we showed. You can kind of, Eric said if you can kind of put it on low, medium, or high, and then mic monitoring, which I call side tone. You can kind of see over on the right hand side. Why don't you explain this, Eric? Because this is really critical. It's one of those things that you don't realize you need until it's not there.
Oh, it's almost like my daughter will go play and she'll be gaming some of these first person shooters. She plays more first person in the shooters than I do. I like to do more of the racing games.
Sure.
But she used to use our old headphones, she would just start yelling, and I'm just like, "What are you doing?
Yeah.
Like, why are you yelling so much?" And I was like, "Oh, it's cool. Like, she's really enjoying the game. Like, just let her be." And then as we started developing this headset. We're like, "Oh, side tone mic monitoring. Oh." So when one of the first builds, I put the headset on her, and I was like, "Hey, why don't you go ahead and play?" And all of a sudden, it went from screaming and yelling because she couldn't hear that other people were hearing her. All of a sudden, that feedback. So immediately when you speak, it goes right into the microphone. It doesn't get processed. It's literally the raw audio, so you don't get that latency. It just comes right back into your speaker, your headphone speaker, and you hear yourself speak. So it's another part, the mute button we talk about, the LED of the mute, the sound of the mute. This is just another feature that when you don't hear yourself going through, it kind of gives you another feedback of, hey, people can't hear me. But when you have it on high, you can hear yourself, so you kind of use your inside voice.
Now I noticed that we've got the mic monitoring. You can turn it high, medium, or low, or of course Eric's daughter's version, which is off. So so you can still hear. So if you don't like it, you
It's
turn
now on high. It's on high now.
Now it's interesting is mic monitoring or side tone. I'm actually a nerd in this space, and I read a whole article about how back when the telephone was invented, how the engineers found exactly what you found, which is people were screaming and they put a little bit of the side tone in and it brought everybody down. So go, if you want to read about that, that's kind of cool. Now up here, let's go to auto mute because this is an interesting feature. Tell us about this, Eric.
Yeah. So actually, I can change it as well on my side.
So let's be
Audio
clear.
mute
You're talking through the Xbox wireless headset right now because it also has Bluetooth and you've paired it with your PC that we're doing this interview on, right?
Yeah, actually, good point. And I do this a lot at work as well. So I will connect my headset to my PC,
Yep.
and I'm using that through Bluetooth. And simultaneously, I have my console right beside me to the left, and I'm controlling everything through the console. So if you're gaming and taking those work calls, at least you can be rest assured that when you unmute yourself, they can't hear anything that's going on that you're doing other than on this work call.
So I think you have a demo for us, right?
Yeah. So what I did is, so I'll go ahead and auto mute has been off the whole time. I will go ahead and turn it on. And I also, while I'm doing that, will turn on a fan because some people, if you're in a cold environment, you have a heater going on or something.
Right.
And then unfortunately this turned off, but we'll go ahead and put some audio in the background. Coincidentally, we have spatial audio and
That's my
from your
interview I did
last video.
with Jason Ronald about spatial audio. So that's just
right?
Imagine somebody behind you talking.
So you have all these sounds going on right now, and you're there gaming. And I stopped talking, right? I don't think that everybody wants to hear the fan running here or hearing the gaming,
and let's be clear,
people speaking behind me.
Those are still going. The fan and the audio is still playing behind you, but because the auto mute does exactly that, it just basically shuts everything off, even though it's still going. So you could be playing in a room with a bunch of people, and we may not hear you.
Yeah, and I think that was the whole point that we wanted to make as part of this feature. was if people, now again, this is just right here behind me, but if you have someone in the room next door, you have a roommate, a sibling, or you're just trying to hide away from everybody and just kind of have your alone time, but people are doing their own thing, it is a little frustrating, have to go back, push the mute button, or trying to change something while you're playing a game. It just makes it a little bit easier that you know that people who are on the far end, they're not going to get annoyed with that background sound.
Yeah. And that's so as you if you when you stop talking, they can still talk, and that's kind of cool. And you can and as I showed you here in the accessories app on the console, you can play around with it to decide what it sounds like, and you've got obviously turn it off, low, medium, and high. So that's really helpful, isn't it?
Yeah, and just to specify on low, medium, high, what
Yeah,
that really means is how sensitive the algorithm will kick in. If it's on high, it's basically going to take a lot for things to pass through. If I probably bring the sound a little bit closer and closer, it might eventually let some of that audio pass through. But if you put it on low, because you don't have much going on, that's probably good enough. And I think the thing that it really also dictates on high, medium, low is also your voice. If
yeah,
you're coming in really loud, then you might, low is fine. But if yours or high is fine, because it just makes sure that it takes a lot to pass through.
yeah,
But if you don't have a speak loud, or you're just trying to be a little silent because you have a little one trying to fall asleep beside you, right? That's when you probably put it into the low setting, because it's already going to be quiet anyways. But it's also going to allow your voice, when you've kind of had a super quiet inside voice,
right.
to pass that through as well.
So and you guys do a lot of engineering work to try to enable that. That's really that's a cool demo. I mean, that again, for the price point to get that, and it's all kind of built in there. That's amazing. And you and I were talking before we started, and it was an interesting approach that no two ears are the same. Whether it's your ears, anybody's ears. Everybody listening has a different set of ears, and how they do that. And all these customization elements just really help you dial in how you want it to sound, right?
Exactly, exactly. Because again, people really, when they want something and it's Xbox, right? We have a lot of special and limited control edition controllers. We have the accessories, how you can customize things with either controller that you have. This is just being consistent in the message that we have of, we want to make everybody feel that this is tailored for them and made for them, so that they can really go focus on the main thing, which is having fun.
Now you had you had the show on there from a previous audio show, which about spatial audio, and I assume that this headset supports our spatial audio because it is our
Yes.
first party headset. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so when we first started developing it, one of the first questions we had was, what's the frequency response that the algorithm normally expects? And how do we make sure that the audio quality is great and consistent with that algorithm? And so that's where but on top of that, we also worked with a lot of the game developers, and started asking them, hey, when you develop your audio and the music that you have within the game, what is the response that you want? And so that's how we started with what is great audio quality. And then being able to tailor it to each person, so it normalizes to each person's respective hearing. That's where we said, hey, this is great. Then when we started looking at spatial audio, it was okay, but now that you can hear things great, you have to know where things are happening, where things are going on.
Right.
So in my case for racing, it's really nice to know, hey, where is the other motor that I'm racing against? Are they behind me? Do I start hearing them come a little bit to my left or to the
All right, now wait a
right?
minute. Are you third person? Are you in cockpit? Are you in front of the car? What's your view that you like to drive with when you're playing Forza? Tell us.
Overhead.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine.
It's
Anyway,
you know it's
so you're to your point,
Go
you can
ahead.
hear, with the spatial audio, you can hear whether it's coming up on your right and whether you want to go left and so on and so forth. So you can really, it helps everybody in every game.
Yeah, it's just one of those things that when I was playing games as a little kid, right? We didn't have like the inside, all those different options, right? And so I just got so used to seeing the car at that level. But when I'm driving at home, obviously, we're in the driver's seat. So audio wise, I feel I love hearing where things are relative to me. And also those small tidbits of if a person wants to pass you or something, they're going to start downshifting or upshifting, drafting you, right? So all of those little characteristics, it really brings you into the game so that you know and kind of live that real world experience of when I'm racing someone, it really feels like I'm racing someone.
Right.
And that's why I also love Forza, because it really it kind of is built on that and that experience, and it allows me to drive the cars I don't get to in real life.
Now we talked about spatial audio, and there's a Dolby Atmos offer that's available for these headsets. Can you tell us, because it's a limited time offer? Tell us a little bit about that, because that's actually really exciting as well.
Yeah, no, that is actually really awesome too. So we partner with Dolby. There's a limited activation. And as you have here, you go to Dolby Access. So if you don't have Dolby Access already, you can download Dolby Access. And literally, once you open it up, it'll recognize, hey, you have a Xbox wireless headset. And so what you have on the top right hand side, it'll say Xbox wireless headset, and it gives you an expiration.
Hmm.
When you do this for the first time, you'll get a little toast that pops up saying, hey, congratulations, you now have Dolby Atmos, and it's going to be there for, I believe, 6 months or so. And so that way you get either Windows Sonic that comes automatically provided, but if you want to have that Dolby Atmos experience, you get to try it for those 6 months to really kind of get a feel for, what do you like, how does each work, and have a great experience.
And that's again, if you purchase a headset, that's any headset that's purchased between now and September 30th, you get to try it out free for 6 months, and that's a great way to
Yeah.
really hear it with your own ears. If you like this, you like Windows Sonic, and go back and listen to the show that Eric was playing behind him as a demo to hear more about the different audio settings that we have. It's an amazing. I mean, and the price point for this, I mean, it's great. It plugs in. It uses our. It's $99.99 in the U.S. It's available in many regions. Uses USB-C. It uses, and I want to be very clear. It uses our wireless technology, the same technology that we use to connect the controller. So you don't have to plug. They're completely wireless. So you're playing, and it's low latency, and it's just high reliability, and it's a great I got to tell you, Eric, this has become my primary device when I'm playing Sea of Thieves and whatnot all weekend. I mean, I love the chat, the easy dials, everything about it's just great. So I want to thank you and the team for doing a great job with it. It's really exciting.
Yeah, there was thousands and thousands of hours that we put into this and asked a lot of people questions, interviews, ranging from all different ages and groups. So when we wanted to build this headset, we really, really wanted to make sure that everybody, no matter who you were, when you picked up this headset, you would have a great experience,
Right.
because we just had to think about everybody who would get a controller, everybody who would want to use a headset. It needs to work.
Yeah. It just needs to work. I would just want to correct something. I said something I misspoke earlier. The limited activation on Dolby Atmos is free until September 30th of this year. So you got plenty of
Yeah.
time to check that out. It's a great little device. In fact, let me bring up the device again. If I know I've got it here somewhere, and it just kind of show off. It's a beautiful piece, and it just belongs perfectly with the Xbox Series family. And this also, Eric, that's actually a good point. This works also with Xbox One as well, correct?
Yes, yes, it does. It uses the same Xbox wireless protocol. It'll connect in the same way that you do with the controllers, and all of the different experiences and the touches, the sounds. Again, it feels, lives, breathes Xbox. Actually, one of the things that I do like is, and there's always those little, nuggets. In the same way that you have the X, right? If you take off, you'll also get the green.
Oh, interesting. I
Right?
didn't even
And so
know
if
that.
you look really closely, and I'm not sure if you can see it here, but if you look really, no,
Oh,
unfortunately not.
I
But if
see.
you look really closely inside through the ear cup, you can kind of see that little bit of green inside.
Yeah, so this is
Yeah.
you can see that this is kind of that's a nifty touch, and these just kind of snap right on. That's really cool. And also, again, I also want to point out that you can have this paired to your console and your Bluetooth device, whether it's a mobile phone or computer, so you can kind of live in both worlds. As Eric said a little bit earlier, you can kind of we're not going to say you should be gaming when you're on those Teams and Zooms call, but if you do, we don't mind, right?
Yeah,
So,
Larry, I'll tell you this, as a parent, I have caught my daughter in class and playing on her console at the same time.
hey,
She's
Dad.
getting great grades. This is working for her, but I was like, wow, like
Yeah.
you're really exercising all these features.
Hey, Dad, I'm using the product you made, so you can't hate me for that.
That, and she said, you did it yourself. I've seen you racing and in the meeting, so why can't I? And I was like, well,
There you go.
as long as you get good grades, you're right.
That's right. Keep it up the good work. Anyway, Eric Garcia, thank you so much. Architect and product lead for the Xbox wireless headset. It's pre-sale now. It's pretty much sold out everywhere. It's going to go on sale the 16th. We'll continue to get more out there as possible. A lot of excitement for this. It's priced at US $99.99. Check your local retailers for the actual pricing and so forth. Eric, thanks so much for your time and well done shipping the headset.
Thank you, Larry. I appreciate you. All have a good day.